Brett. This is Paul. Thank you for joining us on our ICFS, rated ICFS. Oh, geez.
You got the screen right there in case you forgot what it's called. Take two.
So you're with AGFA, the American Genre Film Archive. What is that?
Well, it is a nonprofit that was started by Alamo Drafthouse founder Tim Lee. For those who don't know, Alamo Drafthouse is a movie theater chain that started in Austin, Texas, and now is in almost 40 locations across the U.S. Tim Lee is a big fan of cinema, and he started collecting film prints probably in the earliest days of Alamo in the late 90s. And the collection grew so large that he needed to do something with it. He needed to formalize it somehow. And so AGFA was created originally as a way to just disseminate film prints that he was collecting. But then over time, it grew to be a full-fledged theatrical distribution arm of Alamo that specialized in putting old horror movies back into theaters, basically.
Yeah, well, we've been booking now for a couple of years, pretty much monthly from you, screenings of AGFA films, and they're always a blast. Really my favorite thing that we do. We've got coming up in May, Hard Ticket to Hawaii and Miami Connection. Can you tell us a little bit about Hard Ticket to Hawaii?
Oh, yes. So this is a film that I remember seeing on late night cable as a child who wasn't supposed to be watching late night cable. And it's one of those movies that I was always glad that my parents didn't know how to program the VCR because they didn't know that I did. And so Hard Ticket to Hawaii was one of many films that I saw in a flurry of movie watching in the late 80s. It is the magnum opus of director Andy Sedaris and producer Arlene Sedaris, who were a husband and wife Hollywood power couple who in the mid-'80s decided to make a run of 11 features, all featuring babes, bullets, bikinis, and bazookas. It's a fantastic series of nonsensical action films starring Playboy playmates and soap opera actors, all filmed on the beaches of Hawaii, and they're incredible locales and ridiculous action set pieces like exploding toilets that have pythons shooting out of them, and then frisbees that have razor blades attached to them, and then rogue skateboarders blown up by bazookas. It is a total nonsensical genre anarchy. Great time.
Yeah, I remember my first time I saw a Sedaris film. I think at the time I was doing some writing for Joe Bob Briggs, and he recommended one of the Andy Sedaris movies, and I thought I was going to hate it. Just by the description, I thought I would be offended. But I said, this is actually fun filmmaking. It wasn't just a knockoff, crap.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of that comes from Arlene, the producer of all these movies, and she was really adamant about having Playboy playmates instead of bottom of the barrel actresses, because she thought that the Playboy playmates would just be more real than a typical actress. And she's absolutely right. The women in the films give these really grounded, real performances of what it would be like to have to deal with nonsensical, stupid men while you're on the road to dealing with action situations.
Yeah, I recently discovered Hard Ticket to Hawaii because of the podcast How Did This Get Made? They screened it and discussed it not too long ago, and they absolutely loved it. I watched it as well and was blown away by it because it's exactly what you described, with this sort of genre anarchy, but there's a degree of inventiveness and originality and just earnestness to it that I really appreciated.
That's it. Good job.
That's the way to go. Run these two guys in their boat through the shredder and feed them to the fish.
It could very easily just have been schlocky and exploitative, but there's something about it that for like the female leads, for instance, is like kind of weirdly empowering, if that makes any sense. So I absolutely love the movie, and I'm very excited to be able to show it on the big screen with all the incredible set pieces that go on into it. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Sedarises and the other types of movies that they made? Were they all kind of thematically like Hard Ticket to Hawaii?
Yeah, all the 11 films that they did in what they call the 3 Bs series, which I actually think is Bullets, Bombs, and Babes. It's funny, these films were not meant to be like the Sedaris' meal ticket. They were already a wildly successful Hollywood couple because Arlene was a TV producer and Andy was a TV sports pioneer and was an Emmy-winning sports TV director. He worked on Monday Night Football.
Oh, wow.
He directed the 1968 Olympics for ABC. He directed a lot of like racing documentaries for television. And this was kind of like their retirement project, the kind of thing that they would do in their golden years. And it turned out to be the most wildly successful thing that I think either of them ever did.
Did they live in Hawaii?
What's that?
Did they live in Hawaii, or is that just a perk?
No, that was just a perk. They lived in sunny Beverly Hills. I've actually visited Arlene in her Beverly Hills home, and she's lovely. The house was amazing. They had props from all the films everywhere, next to like a Liechtenstein painting in their living room. It was
Awesome.
yeah, they would shoot the films in probably 3 to 4 weeks each, and they would use the Hawaiian island of Molokai primarily as their location. Arlene actually told me a story about how Andy used to rail against the film Castaway with Tom Hanks because foolishly they went to an actual secluded island to shoot it when they could have just shot it on Molokai and been at a resort 5 minutes away.
It probably would have been a lot cheaper instead of going to the actual island.
Yeah, totally.
Silly question. Is there any relation to Amy and David Sedaris with these two?
No, I wish that would be even nuttier. But no, they don't know the other Sedarises. I think that those are the East Coast Sedarises.
Gotcha.
Andy and Arlene are the West Coast Sedarises.
Okay.
All right. So later in the month, we're going to be showing Miami Connection. Now, we showed that here once before, but we showed it before it had any. I mean, it was, I think the Alamo was the only place there had been like one screening, and we were the next screening, and nobody knew what this movie was. Now we're going to bringing it back because we think more people have heard of it, and hopefully it will get a better reception. What do you know about that film?
Well, first, I'm just curious to ask you, what made you take a leap of faith on it originally when you first showed it?
I met C.Y. Kim?
YK Kim?
YK Kim. I met, actually, I think before we showed it here, we showed it in New York City as part of one of our New York Asian Film Festival events. And there, the audience just ate it up. Nobody had heard of it, but everybody loved it. And so I thought, oh, great, but people got to hear of something before they'll show up. Generally, whereas in New York City, we had this established thing that people just knew that whatever it was we were doing, it was going to be a lot of fun.
I am fascinated by YK Kim. You could call him a cult leader, or you could call him a motivational speaker. It's kind of he resides in the liminal space between the two. So YK Kim is a Korean-born Taekwondo black belts. Do they have black belts in Taekwondo?
I believe that up. Yes, I believe they do.
Okay, so he's like a top of the line Taekwondo artist who lives in Florida, and he's credited as the director sometimes, but I think he's actually the producer and star of Miami Connection. It's a very low budget DIY street level action film that has rock and roll musical sequences about a squad of Taekwondo artists who are in a band called Dragon Sound. fight the good fight, and there's some really ridiculous baddies that live in their town that threaten them juvenile delinquent style, and then they have to face off. That's basically the movie. But the real pleasure in the movie is, again, the rock and roll, the silly rock and roll, the impossibly strange fight choreography, and quite honestly, the Altman-esque portrait of this weird ragtag group of martial artists, which to me is the most interesting thing in the film. There's one guy who has to deal with his father abandonment issues, which is like equally as insane as anything in the fight sequences. I don't know. It's just a really, really high energy good time, and I would put it above things like Birdemic. Miami Connection is not really so bad. It's good. It's literally, why does this exist?
And it's also a little bit of like a thank God it exists, because it's just so bananas.
Thank God it exists. There's something relentlessly positive about the heroes of the film. Like, in real life, they would never be so relentlessly positive, but I have a feeling it's YK Kim's motivational speaker training. And he quite liberally drops motivational bon mots throughout the film at like inopportune times, which is always lovely. But there's just something about him. Like, I feel like he aspired to be a Tony Robbins type, but ended up as more like an Eric Estrada. And I don't know. There's just something charming to the whole proceedings that I can't get over.
Yeah, there definitely is a degree of charm and earnestness with Miami Connection that I felt like is present in Hard Ticket as well. I mean, the storyline that you're talking about with the one character who's dealing with the father issues, there's a clip in the trailer that we've been showing for Miami Connection where he's gotten a letter in the mail from his father, and he's so ecstatic and overjoyed, and it's the way that he expresses it has gotten probably the biggest laughs in our theater from all the audiences that have seen that trailer.
My father! I found my father! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
It's just so over the top, and I feel like it probably could very well be with knowing YK Kim's background as a motivational speaker / quasi cult leader may have been influenced by that sort of mentality, power of positivity type thing. So it's just such a crazy thrill ride. The fight choreography is very entertaining and good, but also at times really nonsensical, I think. And it's also just kind of great that there are these like skilled martial artists and ninjas, and in a few sequences, if I remember right, dress up as ninjas, but they're like the least subtle and incognito ninjas you'll probably ever see in film.
Totally. I mean, I'm in love with YK Kim's cracked take on American showmanship. To me, that is the defining center of the film, is his like wanting to be a Tony Robbins and a P.T. Barnum and a Spielberg, and it's never going to happen, but he just tries so hard that it's a unique object, I think. Yeah, and it's like an insane late-night 3-beer, like fist-pumping movie on top of that.
Yeah, that was the thing that I found very odd but endearing when I met him, was that he's takes himself pretty seriously, but he knows how to have a good time at the same time.
Totally. And like, I could joke about how he's a cult leader, but also his followers do seem pretty benign. You know, they are in this for the good of whatever they're doing, rather than some bizarro like hand over all your money thing. At least that's my impression of it. Who knows?
And that's exactly like us. The It Came From Schenectady team. We're also in it for the good that we can do.
But we want your money too. I mean, we got to be able to keep doing this, so give us your money.
Wow. So thank you. Do you have anything else you want to say about either of these films before we let you go?
Specifically on Miami Connection, I just want to tell people that it's okay to take a chance on going out to the movies and seeing something you've never seen before, because quite regularly, like, the art house or the genre film series in your town is a great way to connect with people who honestly love movies and want to share the strangest depths of them with you. So give in to it. Don't be afraid.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to talking to you on our future program.
Thanks, guys.
Words to live by.